I guess we'll just stop. Well, maybe we can fit this. Cool. All right, so I'm Grace. The consonants that I chose for my presentation are the t and the d sound. So I guess I'll write them too, because I kind of like the way Taryn did that. Sorry. All right, so when you see this, that's the t sound, and then this is the d sound. So my consonants are also plosives or stops, which means that the airstream is blocked for part of the time that you're saying it, and then it's released. She did the explosive gesture, which I really liked. So yeah, the T is a voiceless sound, so you just say t, where the D is a voiced sound. And then I also want to use the example of placing your hand gently on your throat, if you will do that very lightly. And then when you make the t sound, it shouldn't move at all. And then when you make the d sound, you'll feel a light vibration in your vocal folds. So, d, 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 like that. All right, so if you want to use a mirror to examine the slight, using a mirror, observe the subtle differences of the tongue and teeth placement when articulating t or d. You'll notice that the tongue, well, for some, mine goes a little bit more forward than the d sound, where the d is on the alveolar ridge up top. It's more, they're both technically on the place of articulation is the alveolar ridge, but you can see the tongue a little bit more on the t sound. So you can do that. And once you have an idea of what that looks like, ideally I'd like you to discuss with your partners what that looks like, explain the place of articulation where you see your tongue and teeth placement, but for the sake of time, we just won't. But then I'd also like you to observe with the feather the difference in the pressure that it moves when you say the t versus the voiced d sound. Good job. All right, so I have a minimal pair activity. The interesting thing about the T and the D sound is that there are so many words that sound so much alike that begin with a T or a D, but can change completely in meaning if you mispronounce one. So I will quickly go through them. I'm just going to read off one or the other, and you can circle it on your sheet, which one you think I'm saying when I cover this. All right, so number 1, tuck. Do. Die. Train. Dry. Dip. 10. Tear. Dummy. And dusk. All right, so we will just say that the T column is a 1 and the D column is a number 2. So when I say number 1, just hold up a 1 finger if you got a 1 or 2 fingers if you got the 2. So for number 1, tuck or duck? 1, cool. Number 2, not sure? 2, okay. Number 3, 2. Number 4, okay. Number 5, cool. I felt like that one was a little bit tricky to tell the difference. I don't know why. Dry sounded kind of like try. Number 6, cool. Number 7, 1, cool. 8, 9, And number 10. Cool. Everybody got it right. That's pretty cool. I don't know why I find these ones a little bit more tricky. I can see why they would be confusing for Mandarin speakers, especially because one thing that I found out while doing some research on Mandarin was that they don't make the voiceless t sound in the beginning of a word. Their sound with a T is more of a ta sound. And then the d sound that we make isn't really like a low d sound for them. They go da. So I listened to a few different clips, and I thought that was pretty interesting. So I can see why it would be easy to get them confused. But it really does change the significance or the meaning of the word if you use the wrong one. All right, so for the second activity, I have listening discrimination activity. Like the others, they're just two different activities, kind of storytelling, following the example that Professor McMahill used on her layout. So if you want to partner up with somebody and go through it, one thing that I found really interesting before you start is that to and do are often consecutive words, like to do something. So I think that would be a really good point when you're working with your partner to notice the order of it, especially for our Taiwanese exchange partners, to notice what order you would say to and do. But yeah, go ahead and partner up and then talk about it. Honey, if you want to be my partner, you can still be my partner. And we can just do the first activity to save time. We won't do the second activity. The second activity is the same style, but just a different scenario. So just go ahead and do the first one.
I'll be A.
Okay, cool.
Hey, are you all packed for the school trip to Mexico?
Yeah, let's see. Yeah, I packed over the weekend. Do you have any idea what we're going to do? See how many there's? I know, there's a lot.
It's an exercise. Not sure, but it's supposed to be pretty hot. I hope there will be time to take a dip in the hotel pool or at a beach.
Tongue twister.
That is a tongue twister.
Maybe there will be, but I'm just trying to explore the city and ancient ruins as much as possible. Cool. And then I have
These two students discussing
yeah
what they want
to do on their trip to Mexico.
That's tricky.
Cool.
That's a good
Yeah. I'm gonna wait.
What are these two students discussing? The other one? Yes, sir. Yeah, this one's yeah,
What is it? Okay. Yeah. All right, sounds like everybody's done. So yeah, what did you guys think of that activity? Was it difficult to say the kind of tongue twistery ones that follow each other, or was it pretty easy to differentiate? Right. I mean, yeah, we're native English speakers, but if you can imagine.
I think it was pretty tricky when they were next to each other, though, especially for like trip to Mexico. It's just kind of hard to put all of it together. But yeah, no, I think that the to do and all that would be tricky for someone who's maybe not a native English speaker. But for us,
We
saying
know.
to do is
Yeah. Kind of second nature. Yeah. Yeah.
That was even tricky just to read, not like to say out loud, but to just sort of see it on the page. It was confusing as
Yeah.
a native speaker. So
Can you imagine too the difference that what this would actually, it would be kind of gibberish in a way if you use the opposite forms, because they don't actually mean anything in the context of the conversation that's taking place, which I think really illustrates the importance of knowing how to pronounce, or like practicing pronouncing the t versus the d sound. All right, so.
It would just get worse with the hard to distinguish if we use the past, like to Mexico.
Yeah,
To Mexico versus to Mexico.
de Mexico, right?
Yes.
Yeah. All right. So then my questions are kind of just geared towards our exchange students. So the second scenario that I have, which you guys can look over in your packets later if you're interested in reading it, is just it's about camping. I actually found out a lot of fun facts about Taiwan and camping in Taiwan. There's some really beautiful camping locations there, so I made a scenario about camping. But then the questions that I have were just asking them, which I realized now after Taryn's presentation that I also didn't have them focus on pronouncing the t versus the d sound in their answers to these questions, which ideally, I guess I would like to add that on there if I could in any way. But to answer the questions with your partner and try to count how many times they say t versus d, or try to mark a word in one way. If you're writing down the answer, recording their answer, be sure to write what word they're using with the correct t or the d sound. So yeah, that's it.